This is a story of a young man, full of potential, with a future that seemed wide open. But behind that potential lay a dark abyss, one that would eventually pull him in, fueled by a toxic mix of violence, hatred, and a twisted ideology. A path of devastation and death unfolded, leaving a trail of shattered lives. This is the story of Wade Wilson. How does a seemingly ordinary man descend into such unspeakable acts? What turned him from someone with a future into a brutal killer, tied to a notorious white supremacist gang? To understand this, we have to go back to the night of October 6, 2019. Wade Wilson and his girlfriend, Melissa Montanez, had been dating for 6 months. Like any couple, they went out that night to have a little fun, escape the grind and enjoy a few drinks. They made their way to the Buddha Bar, a place known for its lively atmosphere and music. The night started off just like any other, laughing, dancing, and feeling the buzz of the evening. Melissa, driving her sleek 2015 Dodge Hellcat, was ready for a night out. But, as often happens, things don't always stay light and carefree. A heated argument broke out between them. Wade wanted to leave and head to someone's house, someone Melissa didn't know, someone she didn't trust. Melissa was strongly against the idea. Tension was building, simmering beneath the surface, until finally, Wade snapped. Frustrated and clearly irritated, he said he needed to grab something from the car. He stepped outside, but moments later, Melissa, sensing something wasn't right, followed him. When she stepped out into the night, she saw it. The sleek Hellcat she had driven to the bar was speeding away. And Wade? He wasn't behind the wheel. He had left her stranded. She stood there, stunned. She tried to wrap her head around it. Why would he leave her like that? Feeling a mix of anger and confusion, she immediately called her friend Amy, who quickly came to pick her up. Amy took her to her place, and exhausted from the emotional rollercoaster of the night, Melissa fell into a deep, uneasy sleep. But morning brought no relief. She woke up at 8 a.m. to a barrage of missed calls from an unfamiliar number. When she finally picked up, she heard Wade's angry voice on the other end. He demanded to meet her immediately. Now, this wasn't the first time Wade had shown violent tendencies, and Melissa knew the risks. She agreed to meet him, but only in a public place. She wasn't about to meet him alone. She asked Amy to come along, for support and safety. At 8:30 a.m., they arrived at MAA Spa, where Melissa worked. Wade showed up, but something was off. Melissa didn't recognize the car he was driving, which only added to her anxiety. She approached the driver's side, her heart pounding in her chest. "Where are my car keys?" she asked. "What happened to my Hellcat?" Wade was unusually calm. He kept repeating, "Get in the car." But something about his demeanor, the way he said it, sent chills down Melissa's spine. She refused, standing her ground. That's when his calmness turned into something far darker. Without warning, Wade lunged toward her, trying to physically drag her into the car. She stiffened her body, resisting, fighting with everything she had. But Wade wasn't letting go. He yanked at her hair, pulling her by the strands, and grabbed her dress, tearing it in his frantic effort. In the chaos, he failed to put the car in park, and it rolled forward, grazing their legs. The force sent Melissa crashing to the ground, her body slamming into the rough pavement. The pain was immediate and intense, but nothing compared to the fear she felt in that moment. She knew this could be the end. The scene turned into a blur of violence, with Wade continuing to beat her. He punched, slapped, and choked her. Time seemed to stretch, each moment lasting an eternity as Melissa struggled to breathe, to think, to stay conscious. She tried to reason with him, begging him to stop, but the man in front of her seemed like a stranger, cold, detached, violent. She managed to break free for a brief moment, only to be dragged toward a staircase. A crowd had started to gather, and she prayed that someone, anyone, would step in. The minutes felt like hours. She tried to keep calm, hoping that help would arrive soon, but it wasn't coming fast enough. The assault continued. Eventually, the struggle moved to an upper level. There, in desperation, Melissa suggested that they go to the M Spa and talk things through. Maybe if she could get him to listen, the nightmare would end. Finally, Melissa managed to break free entirely. She ran, as fast as she could, to a nearby business, seeking safety. But the worst was far from over. At 8:48 a.m., police arrived at the scene after multiple 911 calls reported the assault. Officer Tim McCormick met Melissa, who immediately identified Wade as her attacker. She recounted the horrifying ordeal and mentioned that Wade had been driving a black Nissan Versa. Meanwhile, Wade was already on the run. The police issued an alert, and the search began. As law enforcement scoured the area, Melissa continued to provide a chilling account of her relationship with Wade. She spoke of his troubled past, his violent history, his drug abuse, and his criminal record that spanned over a decade. More than 20 arrests, including for fraud, trespassing, and abuse. Melissa described her fear. If Wade had succeeded in forcing her into his car, she might not be alive to tell her story. But what happened next would send the investigation spiraling into even darker territory. Wade's calls in the early morning had come from a number linked to someone named Christine Melton. Officers discovered that Christine, a 35-year-old woman, was missing. Her body would later be found, and her death was ruled suspicious. Her car, the black Nissan Versa, was also missing. The case now involved not only Melissa's assault but the possible murder of Christine. As the police closed in, the stakes continued to rise. But the real shock was yet to come. Around 10 a.m., Wade's erratic behavior led to a disturbing confession. He approached a man named Josh, a businessman he had known from a previous job, and asked for money. When Josh refused, Wade's frantic words sent a chill down his spine. "No, you don't understand. I killed people last night." Alarmed, Josh immediately called 911, but Wade was gone by the time police arrived. It wasn't long before Wade's name started to surface in connection with another missing person. Diane Ruiz, a beloved mother of two, had been reported missing after she failed to show up for her shift at the local Moose Lodge. Her purse was found abandoned, and authorities suspected foul play. Investigators soon connected Diane's disappearance to Wade and his black Nissan Versa. Then, the most chilling piece of the puzzle fell into place. Wade's biological father, Stephen Tester, testified in court, shedding light on Wade's past and his troubled upbringing. Wade had been adopted at a young age after his biological parents, both too young to care for him, put him up for adoption. Wade had reconnected with his biological father when he turned 18, but their relationship had been strained. Stephen revealed that Wade frequently asked for money and that, during a phone call, Wade confessed to killing 2 people. He spoke of a woman he met at a bar, a woman he'd choked to death. But was this confession the truth? And what would happen next? The court was also informed that Wade had called the woman, and this was an indication that he felt no sorrow or had any compassion for his actions at all. This chilling confession added a new layer of urgency to the search for Wade. As it became clear he might be connected to more than one violent crime, authorities intensified their efforts, realizing that capturing Wade was critical not just for public safety but also for potentially saving any other lives that might be in danger. During the call, Wade's father recounted more chilling details of his son's actions. He explained that after Wade choked the first woman, he stayed in her house for a while. When asked what Wade did next, his father stated, "He said he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her." When pressed for more details, Wade's father clarified that Wade felt he couldn't move her because rigor mortis had set in, making her body stiff. When asked if Wade had specified what he meant by her trunk, his father confirmed that Wade was referring to the trunk of the woman's car. Since Wade was unable to get her body into the trunk, he told his father that he left her there and took the car instead. Turning to the second victim, Wade's father recounted that Wade had seen a woman walking down the street and stopped to ask her for directions. He managed to convince her to get into the car. Once inside, Wade reached over and choked her while driving. Wade's father confirmed this account. Regarding what happened next, Wade's father said that Wade had mentioned searching for a place to dispose of the body. Eventually, Wade found a location to leave her. Wade told his father that when he pulled her out of the car, he realized she was still breathing. In response, Wade got back into the car and ran her over repeatedly, describing the aftermath as her body looking like spaghetti. During this chilling recount, Wade's father had the phone on speaker, and his wife overheard the entire conversation. Reflecting on his decision to turn his son into law enforcement, Wade's father admitted that initially, he wanted to help Wade and felt conflicted about reporting him. However, His feelings changed as the gravity of Wade's actions became clear. When asked why his feelings shifted, he responded that he considered how he would feel if the victims were his own family members. He realized that he would want someone to take action if the situation were reversed. The father also had additional concerns about what might happen if he didn't turn Wade over to the authorities. These concerns, coupled with the realization of the potential danger Wade posed to others, led him to contact the police. When asked why he decided to report Wade, his father responded, he would have done it again. At the time Wade was telling him all these details, his father knew Wade had broken into a house while running from the police but didn't know the exact address. To find out, he told Wade that he wanted to send him a money order and needed the address. Wade's father provided this information to a detective, who then passed it to the U.S. Marshal Service and the Regional Fugitive Task Force. Wade had broken into and was hiding in a home that was fortunately empty. The married couple living there had left for Ohio earlier that day. After 30 minutes of loud verbal commands for him to exit the residence, Wade finally opened the front door, where he was taken into custody without incident. He was then transported to the Cape Coral Police Department for booking and later to the Lee County Jail. According to a report published online on October 15, 2019, by Caitlin Green, Wade's ex-girlfriend, Melissa, claimed that Wade had called her from jail the day before and confessed to killing Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, whose body was found in a field behind a Sam's Club on October 10. Melissa explained, "He admitted over the phone to me that he killed both those women. He strangled both of them. He said he just felt like it. He said he was on drugs, and it messed him up." Approximately 6 weeks after the murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, a significant update in the case against Wade Wilson was announced by the state attorney's office. At a press conference, State Attorney Amira Fox, accompanied by Cape Coral Police Chief Dave Newlin and their teams, revealed that Wade Wilson had been indicted for the first-degree premeditated murders of both victims. The charges followed a grand jury's decision, marking a critical step in the legal proceedings. Wade Wilson was also charged with several other offenses, including 1 count each of battery. Christine Melton was found dead in her Cape Coral home on October 7, and Diane Ruiz's body was discovered on October 12 in a field in Cape Coral, 4 days after she was reported missing. During the press conference, Amira Fox expressed her sympathy for the victims' families and praised the Cape Coral Police Department for their thorough investigation. She stated that the charges aim to bring some measure of comfort to the victims' families, acknowledging the profound impact of the murders on both the families and the community. Fox also highlighted the dedicated efforts of the investigative team, including Detective Bell and Detective Jones, whose work played a vital role in advancing the case. The next day, Wade Wilson appeared in court via remote video for his initial hearing. The charges against him were read aloud, including first-degree murder, grand theft auto, battery, another count of first-degree murder, burglary of an occupied dwelling, and petty theft. Judge Andreas Gardner, representing the state, requested that Wade be held without bail, and the judge decided that any future bond motions would be addressed by the trial judge. Wade was subsequently ordered to be held without bond, with his next court date scheduled for November 25, 2019, at 8:30 a.m. Additionally, the judge issued a no-contact order, instructing Wade that if he were to be released, he would be prohibited from having any direct or indirect contact with Melissa Lynn Mantes, who resided on 9th Street in Fort Myers, Florida. Wade acknowledged this order with a simple "sure." Since his arrest in the early hours of October 8, 2019, Wade Wilson was held in custody without bail. His trial faced numerous delays over the years due to frequent continuances and pretrial motions. During this period, Wade underwent a personal transformation, notably adding numerous facial tattoos, including Nazi symbols. During Wade Wilson's trial, the defense requested that the court allow the use of facial makeup to cover his tattoos, arguing that the tattoos could prejudice the jury. Although the court granted this request, the defense ultimately decided not to use the makeup. After Wade's failed escape attempt, the case against him moved forward, and the trial was set to begin on June 10, 2024. Everyone knew this would be a big deal. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. A jury was chosen, and the trial officially began in the highly publicized case of Florida versus Wade Wilson. The prosecution came out strong. They presented evidence and witnesses that showed Wade had confessed to the murders of both Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. These witnesses were key people in Wade's life, friends, acquaintances, and even people who had spoken to him after the murders. They all shared the same disturbing story. Wade admitted, in a calm and almost emotionless way, that he had killed 2 women. The way he said it, with no hint of remorse, shocked everyone in the room. It was as though he was talking about something small or insignificant, not the brutal murders of 2 innocent people. On the other hand, the defense didn't argue much about the facts of the case. They didn't deny that Wade confessed to the murders or that he had done it. Instead, they focused on Wade's mental state at the time. They claimed he was so high on drugs, so mentally unstable, that he didn't fully understand what he was doing. They argued that he was whacked out of his mind and couldn't be held entirely responsible for his actions. The prosecution didn't buy it. They pointed to the evidence, which clearly showed Wade knew exactly what he was doing. They argued that no matter how messed up his mind was, he still made the decision to kill these women, and that made him guilty. After days of arguments, the jury had to make their decision. The tension in the room was thick, and everyone was waiting for the moment when the verdict would be read. The jury deliberated for just 2 hours, which felt like an eternity to those watching. When they came back, everyone held their breath. The 4-person stood up, holding the verdict. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Finally, the words came out, guilty on all counts. The crowd in the courtroom was filled with a mix of emotions, relief for some, anger for others, and sadness for the families of the victims. For the families of Christine and Diane, this was a moment of justice, but it was bittersweet. Their loved ones were gone, and no verdict could bring them back. But at least they knew the person responsible would be held accountable. Wade stood there, motionless, as the judge called the end of the trial. The gavel banged, and that was it, the decision was made. Wade Wilson would face the consequences of his actions. But the question remained, how did someone like him fall so far? What happened to him that led him to commit such horrible crimes? And could anything have stopped him before it was too late? As the courtroom emptied, the story of Wade Wilson seemed to end, but the effects of what he did would be felt for a long time. The families of Christine and Diane had a long road ahead, filled with pain and healing. But at least now, there was justice for their loved ones. Wade Wilson's name would forever be tied to the deaths of 2 women, and the world would remember the tragedy of how one man's actions caused so much pain.